Hello and welcome to the show. I'm Cath Vincent and once again we have a fabulous lineup of guests to energise and inspire you.
It's time to wake up your wow with your host, international award-winning speaker, Cath Vincent.
On the show tonight, stroke survivor Barnaby Howarth shares his inspirational story of recovery, positive thinking and focusing on the simple life. If you're concerned about money, chartered accountant Kirsten Hawke tells us how to stay on top of the numbers. And international composer Stephen Small tells us how creativity unleashes the confidence to achieve other things. And in the Wilde Records music slot with Jessie Wilde, we hear from music legend Hammond Gamble. All this and more to wake up your wow.
Thanks so much for coming.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Studio. Now, some years ago, you survived an alcohol-fuelled gang attack. Tell me about that.
I was out with three mates of mine and we were coming home from a pub and got into a fight, which was only a minor scuffle.
Yeah.
But then we got a bit further down the road and the minor scuffle turned out to a gang attack of 20 blokes. Some of them had their shirts off, some were yelling abuse. And one of my mates and I got caught up in the middle of it. He was king hit from behind and then kicked in the head while he was on the ground. So I ran over and got the kickers off. And that's when I got king hit from behind and then kicked while I was out as well.
Wow.
Which tore an artery in my brainstem and some clots formed. But the clots took a week to lodge in the brainstem into a part where it narrowed and interrupted blood flow going out of the brain, which caused a stroke.
And when you were going through the stroke, did you know what was happening?
I had no idea. I was on life support for 4 days.
Wow.
My parents were told they might have to turn it off. My family and friends were told to come and say goodbye. And I obviously had no idea how serious things had got because I woke up and saw my bed was surrounded by family and friends. And I looked around at them all and said, "Did we beat North Shore?" We were playing them in footy, so turns out we lost, so I was spewing.
You thought it was some fabulous party around your bedside.
Yeah, I thought, oh cool, everyone's here, this is awesome.
And then what happened? When you came to and you realised what had gone on, what happened next?
Over the next few days I learnt how badly it affected the left side of my body. So I really struggled. I couldn't even stand still. I went to stand up one day and fell over. So I was in a wheelchair for the early parts of it. So all my rehabilitation was getting coordination and strength back into my left side. I didn't wear glasses before the stroke. My eyesight was affected. My speaking's a little bit affected. So over the next few days I just learnt all these deficiencies I had that I had to improve to get back to the life I wanted to live.
So you've made a miraculous recovery. Over what period of time?
That was 2005, it's now 2014, so almost 10 years.
Wow. And has it left you with any, other than emotional scars I imagine, any physical side effects?
Quite a few. Probably the biggest one or the most noticeable one is my left hand. I've got a cerebral tremor in my left hand, which is basically a shaking left hand. I'll give you a demonstration of what that has affected me. So one of the hardest things I can do nowadays is something as simple as holding a pen.
Wow.
That's not being put on, that's fair dinkum. It's called an intention tremor, so it gets worse if you're trying to do things with your fingertips.
Right.
So little tiny things like that really, like I get a huge amount out of. I picked up a Tic Tac the other day and put it in a bowl with my left hand. I thought I was the king of the world.
So what have you learned from this whole experience?
Well, it changed my whole perspective on everything. I used to think when I was younger that winning was the most important thing in life. Everything I wanted to do, I wanted to be the best at. But now holding a pen is a huge achievement for me. So it's those simple things in life that I just love these days. I just got married 8 days ago and...
Congratulations.
Yeah.
So 8 days ago, this is like your honeymoon.
This is literally our honeymoon.
He's on the Cath Vincent Show for his honeymoon, ladies and gentlemen. So you now actually deliver keynote presentations relating to your story. What's the take-home message?
I try and tell people that rain falls on the just and the unjust alike, but there comes a time where you just have to get over it and go and play in the puddles, which is basically just saying that good things happen to bad people, bad things happen to good people. There's no rhyme or reason to it, but you can either go and cry in your milk and and get depressed about it, or you can just go, well, that's unfortunate, but got to move on.
So what simple practical tips would you give to a person to live a more fulfilling life?
I played Aussie rules in my younger days, and one of my best coaches always said, focus on the game plan and the result will take care of itself. So one of the tips that I tell people is that don't look too far in the future. If you've got a 10-year goal, or you want to be something big, don't focus on the end goal, just focus on what's in front of you right now. So if what's in front of you right now is drinking a glass of water, do that to the best of your ability and don't worry about what's in the future.
So what does that mean in ordinary everyday experience?
Just those little things, just break it down into small tasks rather than lose yourself in the big goal.
You're so right, because people really get distracted by where they're trying to get to and how quickly they can get there. So your message is really one of slowing down.
Pretty much, just slowing down and not worrying yourself with the big goals.
Yeah.
Because I see so many people who go, I really want to be an Olympian, or I want to be the best, I want to be the CEO. Or I'm like, well, don't worry about that. Just worry about focusing on this next task. Become a middle manager before you can become CEO.
Yeah.
So people just need to break things down.
So what's the next leg of your honeymoon entail?
That's a very good question.
You don't know, do you?
I was talking to Makeup earlier, and she was saying that Hawaii is a beautiful place. So Angela, my wife Angela, and I have been talking about going to Hawaii.
Yeah.
So would be our next ideal spot.
Yeah.
Just need to book a ticket and get there.
So you are literally planning it country by country. You're in a country and then you work out where to go next.
We are literally as ad hoc as you can get.
Right.
Angela and I were on the Central Coast in New South Wales in Australia on our honeymoon for a week when you rang on Tuesday, today's now Monday, and said, we've got a spot on the show on Monday, can you be here? And Angela and I were like, yep, we're in, let's go.
Okay, so if anyone's in Hawaii right now, if you're watching this, you're in Hawaii, we're looking to fly Barnaby over there.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Turtle Bay, thanks.
Turtle Bay, very specific. So is there any other key tips you can give us?
I'd really implore people not to worry about being the best at something.
Yeah.
I mean, you want to give it your best, but you don't need to be the best.
Yeah.
So if there's something in front of you, give it 100%. There's a saying that I heard from Ron Barassi, who's an AFL Hall of Fame player and coach. And he used to say there's no disgrace in failing. Yeah. The only disgrace is if you only half try, or 3/4 try, or 99% try. Yeah. So if you want something, as long as you give it 100%, if you don't quite get there, you can still hold your head up, push your shoulders back and be proud of what you've done.
Yeah. Well, Barnaby, thank you so much for coming in, and we wish you all the best for the rest of your fabulous honeymoon, and may it last your whole lifetime.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Kirsten, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thank you, Kath.
Now, you help lots of businesses achieve their financial goals, but in your experience, why is it that people go into business in the first place?
Well, funny you should ask, actually, because really what it is most people are quite happy being employed by somebody else. They might be a great architect or maybe a great sparky, but they always think, hey, I can do better than that. Why am I doing all the hard work when the boss gets all the money? So what they then end up doing is thinking, I can do this for myself, and off they go. Great technical knowledge, but not too much in the way of skills on how to actually run a business. And as you know, the grass is not always greener on the other side.
So what kind of problems do they run into?
Just basic business management, really, just understanding that running a business is more than just actually getting out there and doing the technical work that it's involved, and just, from HR to operations to finance, just a huge amount.
There's a lot to think about, isn't
it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
On top of the work that you're doing, there's all of that financial planning stuff.
And the dream of just being able to work a few hours and go on lots of holiday with all this lovely money is not always a reality.
So what do you think is the problem holding people back?
Well, I think they just really don't plan well, I think, at the beginning, and just don't understand what it is that they're trying to achieve, and actually have a way of getting there, a way of getting from A to B. So just good planning, I think, is missing in most small businesses.
Okay, so your first tip for somebody setting out in their small business venture would be to do some sort of planning.
To do some sort of planning and to get some professional advice as well, absolutely.
Okay. And so once you've got your plan in place, What sort of things should you be doing on a weekly, monthly, yearly basis to keep the business rolling?
Well, I mean, first of all, you figure out what your end goal is going to be, or how you want to get out of the business. I know it seems a funny topic when you first get into business, but are you planning on being there for 5 years or 10 years, or are you planning for your kids to take it over, or are you planning to get in, build it up and sell it off? So thinking about that end goal, and then just breaking it down backwards from there. And so you break it down maybe into your 5-year goals, your 3-year goals, your 1-year goal, break it right down until you get down to, probably we work on sort of 90-day quarterly goals.
Right,
and work it from there.
And why do you set 90-day goals? That's an interesting number. Why 90 days?
It's just, it's long enough to achieve something, and it's short enough so that you don't, I guess, lose sight of it. Absolutely.
You're so right, because so many people lose sight of why they got into business in the first place.
Oh, absolutely, and they end up working really, really hard for the business, and the business should be working for them.
Yeah. And a lot of people only really see their accountant once a year. It's a bit like going to see the dentist, isn't it?
It can be, depending on the accountant, yes.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's, a lot of people are actually scared of going to the accountant. We know a lot more about you than you're probably willing to share. I mean, we see all your financials. The numbers don't lie. You can't hide from us how much you are really making in your business, how it's really going. So you're laying yourself bare, really, when you come to see your accountant and sharing those numbers with them. And I guess a lot of stereotyping. A lot of people are very scared to ask a question. They feel that they should know the answer to something that's going on in their business, but they don't necessarily know it. And I guess it's our job to make it easier, be able to explain things well, and be able to let them know it is a safe environment to ask questions and to learn more about their business.
There's quite a lot in the whole financial arena that actually people don't know. They don't know what it means. They don't know what the numbers mean.
Oh, absolutely.
What advice would you give people?
I think just work well with a good advisor. Sit down, make sure that you're understanding your numbers, your starting point really, and making sure when your accountant gives you a set of accounts and a tax return, you just don't go, oh, that's how much tax I have to pay, let's file that away.
Oh, there's more. Are you supposed to do something with those documents?
So actually, have a look at some trends, have a look at how you did against last year, really understand, I guess, the drivers of your business, and understand, one of the common questions that is asked, I guess, is how come I've made a profit but I've got no money in the bank?
Yes.
And actually just really understanding that there is a difference between profit and cash, and how to work that to your advantage.
Interesting. So actually, let me ask you, how come I've made a profit but I have no money in the bank?
How many people owe you money? How many assets did you buy?
Assets.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of things that impact maybe on your profit and loss, but not on your cash flow.
Okay, so there's quite a difference obviously between your profit and loss and your cash flow, two quite separate things you need to understand. Yes,
absolutely.
Okay. And you work as well, not just with startups, not just with tradespeople, but also with property investors.
Yeah, absolutely.
What can you tell me about that?
It's just really good for property investors. I mean, it's a great investment vehicle in New Zealand, isn't it? I mean, we all know somebody who has rental properties, and it's, I guess, again, having that big picture, having that plan, making sure, again, that the numbers are working for you, doing some numbers up front and some forecasts up front to make sure it's just not going to be something that you end up tipping money into a deep dark hole, just making sure that you are going to get the return on your investment that you want to. And again, having a bit of a plan, either an exit plan or a growth strategy on how you're going to build up your portfolio.
Okay, so whether you're in business, whether you're a startup, whether you're a property investor, what would your top 3 tips be?
I guess planning. Having that plan, and then really understanding your numbers, and not just historic, but having them at your fingertips, so that you can actually, there's enough software out there that you can actually produce a set of accounts any day of the week. The information is there online, likes a zero, etc. You can get your push a button, you've got your profit and loss. You know exactly where you are. So really understanding where you're going, keeping track of that as well, not just looking at it, but measuring it and monitoring it, and making sure you are making a profit each month, and if not, why not?
Okay, the big question.
And being accountable. So having, set your goals, that's all very well, but make sure that somebody is actually checking up on you that you're doing it, whether it's a friend that you can confide and say, this is what my goal is and this is what I want to achieve and I want you to check in with me, or the likes of a business coach or a professional advisor.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, because accountability is a thing that keeps you on track.
Absolutely.
Otherwise you wake up at the end of the year and go, what happened? Thanks so much for sharing all that advice with us today.
Thank you.
Stephen, I am super excited that you're here. Thanks for coming in. Now, you are on tour at the moment with Kitaro.
Yes.
Tell me about the tour.
I work for Kitaro as his musical director.
Yeah.
So I've written all of his orchestrations and I play the piano. So in our concerts on tour, I'm front centre conducting the orchestra, playing the piano, and the kind of the conduit between him, where he's a synthesizer player, so between him and the orchestra. So it's great fun.
Cool. Now, you are one of the most prolific, creative people I know. You actually composed our theme tune. Thank you so much for that. Very catchy. Everyone's singing it right now. But tell me, as a creative person, the process of creativity, how does it work?
It can be a minefield. You know, if we think about when we're kids, we're always creative. We do stuff all the time because there's every reason to be creative.
Yeah.
Yet, when we're adults, we often say we've got all of the following reasons not to be creative.
Yeah, why is that?
I don't know, maybe it comes with responsibility, that we want to feel like we're actually engaged in things that are guaranteed to be productive. I don't know, because when you're involved in creative things, there's always the risk that, you know, you pour your heart and soul into something and then it doesn't really blossom, you know, but that's part of being creative, is to work through that.
And this is true for every person, not just musicians. So business people, people at home, people, no matter what walk of life you're in, you have the opportunity to be creative and you may not take it.
Yes, yeah. And I think for a lot of people, they might not necessarily know what the thing is that they'd like to be creative within.
Yeah.
And that's very difficult. So to you know, a lot of us, we stumble upon the thing that we actually enjoy, and then the thing that ultimately we end up being good at. If you haven't stumbled upon that thing, then, you know, but you know inside you that you feel like you're a creative person, then you have to be very patient and you have to go out and look at lots of things, read lots of books, go to lots of movies, talk to lots of people, and, you know, to increase the odds that you might actually stumble upon the thing that you're good at.
Why do you think creativity is important?
Because it gives us something that we can consider to be our own. So it's your baby. Whatever the thing is, it's the thing that only you can have made.
Yeah.
So it's something that it's not just about ownership, because, you know, people take ownership over other people's work all the time if they've contributed to something. So it's more than that. It's about feeling that you actually birthed something that's unique, that's a part of you.
What would you say to a person who says, well, look, that's all right for you. You are a creative. That is who you are. But I'm not. What would you say to that person?
To be brave, to try. And then if you can find the thing that you'd like to be creative within, part and parcel of that is developing the skills that go hand in hand with it, because you know, I can be, in my mind, I can be as creative as I like with pottery, but until I actually develop the skills of being a potter, I'll never actually be able to do the thing. So the two things have to go hand in hand. But if you're not willing to be creative, then it won't happen. You need to believe that it's possible for you to do anything that you want, and you can. You know, anyone can do anything.
So do you think being creative unleashes the power to do other things?
Yes. Yeah, because it gives you the confidence to say, well, I managed to do this. So when something else turns up, you look at it and you say, sure, I'll give that a go.
Yeah. And I guess that's the point, that creating stuff does require you probably to go through some kind of pain or growth. Yeah. It's
immensely challenging. And it's the hardest thing in any creative process is to see the thing through to completion. So creative people struggle often. The one thing that you don't need around you is a whole lot of unfinished projects, because they sit there and they say, oh look, you didn't finish this one, you probably won't finish me either, you know. So it's so important to see things through to completion, and then you can say, right, it's done now. It might not be perfect, because we have to celebrate imperfection. It might not be perfect, but it's done, and I can move on and do this one now.
Okay,
and it's really hard.
So what would you say, final word, what would you say to someone who wants to create something, anything, it doesn't really matter what it is, and they're starting with a blank sheet of paper?
Not to second guess their very first step.
Right.
To do anything to get going.
Yeah.
And to not be critical of that first step, because the first step always leads to the second step.
Fabulous.
As you move on, it will become whatever it will be.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Thanks, Stephen, that's awesome. Now, don't go away, because, big treat for all of us, you're going to be here playing piano along with our guest musician today.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure, thank you.
Jesse, welcome back. Always good to see you.
Yep, nice to be back.
So tell me, who's recording in the studio right now?
Today we have Hammond Gamble, an incredible blues singer-songwriter.
Fabulous.
And the last time I saw Hammond play actually was at Dave McCartney's funeral.
And Dave, of course, was a singer with Hello Sailor.
Yeah, and he did a song which he's going to play for us today, which brings a tear to my eye.
Oh, okay. And of course, Stephen Small is accompanying him as well. So,
That's right.
Off you go. Go.
Right, I'm going to man the mobile recording rig.
When I see you in the city, I change direction as if I don't see, and I stare at the windows that stare back at me as you walk by. I can see my reflection, there's a tear in my eye. 'Cause of all the times I've known you, midnight's the time that I knew you the best. It's when you arrived, and it's when you went left and said goodbye. Darling, you always could put a tear in my eye. Look what midnight's done to me. I look towards the midnight sky for sympathy, yet all it seems to offer me is misery. I must be blind, can't read the signs. The stars shine out so bright. Helen, you wouldn't even give a blind man life. And of all the things you gave me, nothing compares with what you've taken away. You played with my heart and then gone to stay with someone else. Darling, you always knew how to think of yourself. Look what midnight's done to me. Sky for sympathy, yet all it seems to offer me is misery. Well, all I need now is some daylight. Yeah, all I need now is some daylight.
Thank you, that was fabulous. Hammond, that is the most spellbindingly beautiful song ever.
Thanks very much, Kath.
Not a dry eye in the house, I tell you. Now, the last time I saw you perform that was at Dave McCartney's funeral. Tell me about that performance.
Well, I did it once again with Stephen, I think, and Debbie Howard, good friend of both of us, and Dave's wife had asked us to play at the thing, so we did it. And Dave had been a good friend of ours for a long while. I've met Dave in '74, and we actually used to play acoustic stuff in the beginning at the Windsor Castle in Parnell.
Great,
you know,
great venue.
So how did you come to write that song?
Most of the things I've written, the songs I've written, are kind of nearly all of them are based on kind of things that I've personal experience, I suppose you like. But quite a few people pull me up on that, you know, especially my wife's workmates and things. But the fact is that you've got to sort of colour them up a bit, you know, make them a bit interesting. So I charm them up a bit, you know. There's a lot of artistic license in it, you know.
So there's some kind of truths.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you should never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
No, that's right.
So where does your inspiration come from?
I don't know. Got quite a lot of different areas. When I was a young kid, I don't even like to admit it, but I used to be into Cliff Richard and the Shadows. And now I don't like Cliff so much, but I did when I was really, really young.
Yeah.
I used to sing things like Lucky Lips and things like that. Honestly, I don't even like the title.
Are you going to sing it now? Give us a burst of Lucky Lips.
Yeah. No, I don't think I'll bother.
If you're going to write a song, for you, is it quick or slow? Writing a song, quick or slow?
Usually, if it's any good, it's a bit quicker. The lyrics take me a bit of time, but the ones I spend forever on are usually pretty useless, and I don't actually do anything with them.
Interesting. You know? Now, you're not the first musician to say that, so it does sound like inspiration is meant to pour out.
I think if you look on a catchy melody that you'd think, because there's so many different parameters, of course, but there's so many melodies being written, it's hard to get one that's nice that hasn't been done before. It doesn't sound like you ripped it off, you know. So, but if you look onto that, then you're on a winner. And I think if you bloody carry on and on and on and on, trying to get somewhere with it, it might be best to just throw it away and get on with something else. Although it's hard to do that because you still have it in the back of your mind.
Well, listen, we love that song that you played for us today, and you have so many amazing songs. Keep doing what you're doing.
Oh, thank you very much, Kath.
Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks, Jessie.
Thank you.
My thanks to all my special guests, to Barnaby, to Kirsten, to Stephen, to Jessie Wilde and Hammond. And until next week, don't wait to wake up your wow.